Hey everyone, this is Chris Crazy House, and today I'm going to be talking about, you know what, you're never too old and it's never too late for you to be successful or to create that great idea that you've always wanted to put out there. Before I get to it, just let me say that this blog is going to be sponsored by my own coloring book, Naturally Cute Coloring Books. There is 3 volumes out right now that you can purchase on Amazon.com if you are so inclined, and the brand new one is called Naturally Cute Fantasy, which features black women with their natural hair in different fantasy settings. You will definitely enjoy it, and I encourage you to go pick up a copy as soon as possible. The holiday season is picking up. It's the perfect gift for the woman you love or the child that you love. So, what prompted me to want to do this blog was I saw an interview with the producer Timberland, and he was just talking about, or he was asked the question as to whether his age played a factor in what he's doing as far as being an artist, but also as a producer. In my opinion, Timberland does not get the credit that he deserves as far as production goes. He's one of the greatest producers. I would definitely put him in the top 5 as far as hip hop and R&B producers. He's put out some great things and put out some great artists as well. In my opinion, he was kind of like the real architect of Aaliyah's career. But he was asked a question, whether his age had anything to do or with being successful. Like, are you ever too old to go out there and produce and create new things? And he relayed a message that he got from another mega producer, Quincy Jones, where, he talked with Quincy Jones about being a producer, and Quincy Jones said, you know what? Even though I'd had hits and I'd had a lot of great things in my career, I did not create and produce Thriller, the album Thriller by Michael Jackson, until I was in my 50s. So, Quincy Jones has a very long and illustrious career. Anyone knows that, going all the way back to working with Ray Charles. So, Quincy had this great career as a producer and as a composer, but he didn't really start getting that real appreciation and accolades till after he worked on Thriller, which was one of the biggest selling albums of all time. So I put this out there to say that this doesn't just apply to music. There are a lot of people out there who are amazing and fantastic artists who did some of their best creations later in life. There's Walt Disney didn't create Mickey Mouse until like his 40s, or not create, but I should say that cartoon didn't come out and pick up and start getting the attention that it deserved until he was in his 40s. Because I think he created it a little bit earlier, but it started getting attention when he was already in his 40s, right? The same thing with great artists like Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby created and worked on the Fantastic Four when he was in his late 40s, early 50s. So that's what I mean. And Jack Kirby's another one who had a very illustrious career as far as being someone who had worked in comics since he was a teenager and getting all the way up until his middle age, where he created arguably the greatest game-changing comic books ever. You think about his run on the Fantastic Four, and then later on, years later, going to DC and creating the Fourth World. That's what I'm saying. Like, he was well into his 50s and 60s when he created that stuff. So you can't always say that creating great things is a young man's game. It's not. George R.R. Martin didn't have the Song of Ice and Fire until later in his life. And a lot of people have seen him. He's an old man, but He might even have some of these ideas or the genesis of these ideas earlier, but things didn't really get put down to paper and take off until he was way into middle age, almost a senior citizen. Same thing with J.R.R. Tolkien, who created the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He didn't do that. I mean, he was already had a job as a professor for years, for decades actually, and to come up with this great fantasy trilogy later in life. And that's what he's remembered for. He's not really remembered for just being a professor. A lot of people even forget that that was his actual job. So that's what I mean is you don't always have to have your greatest creations when you're in your 20s. You know what I mean? Like that's something that's kind of put on us here in this society where we feel that we're not successful or we've never accomplished anything. And if we don't do it by age of 25. And I think that's kind of the wrong mentality to have. Okay, because I mean, even if you think about it, that's a very small pool of people. And sad to say, a lot of people, they kind of burn themselves out when they do have that. It's almost easier. It makes more sense for you to have that bigger success later in life than it is for you to have it when you're younger. I think once you get to, your 40s, your late 30s, early 40s, you're a lot more mature as far as life goes. You've lived through life. You've had hardships. You've had failures. You've had things that didn't always go your way. You've learned how to do certain things in production, especially if you've always worked in this field. You've ran into problems and issues, and you've overcame them. So you're better prepared mentally and spiritually to have this success or to create something that will bring this success once you get to that mature age. It's not so much of a shock, and you don't know how to handle it, and you know better ways to deal with it as it comes. Because that's why you don't see when an older person has success, you don't see them out there wasting money and partying with it. You know what I'm saying? They're just happy to have something that they can do and they can take care of their family. And sometimes it might be a little bit much for them because they're so used to that normal life that once they start getting success and a camera in their face all the time and people caring about more of what they say, sometimes that can be a little bit overbearing as well. But they handle it better because they're a lot older and more mature in that manner. So if I can impart anything to you guys here, is I don't want you guys to ever think it's too late, or if you haven't accomplished something by the age of 25 that you somehow failed at life. That's not true. It's more likely and it makes more sense that you will have your successes a little bit later in life. Like I'm starting to learn that now, because I used to feel that way. I used to feel like if I didn't accomplish all this stuff by the age of 28, between 28 and 30, that I had somehow failed. But now things are starting to come to me a little bit more, and I'm starting to have more successes, and I feel a lot better equipped to handle it because I've been in the trenches. I've been laid off or fired. I've been through things like that. I've been through working on these great and grand projects for these companies, and then they're not going anywhere. I've had a lot of those types of failures where it felt like where I started questioning, why am I even doing this, right? But I can handle things a lot better now, and I feel like I'm in a better place. I'm a lot more stable now than I ever was as far as being a creator who creates content and dealing with the good, the bad, and the ugly of all these things, right? That's why a lot of things just don't bother me anymore as far as dealing with other people, whether they be large companies or independents. I know how to deal with them a lot better now because I've seen it all. I've dealt with it all. I've dealt with great productions. I've dealt with shady productions. I mean, people who are just not trustworthy. I've dealt with people who are very straightforward, who are all about business. I've dealt with people who try to be your friend or a little bit more pleasant. I've dealt with partnerships. I've dealt with just straight hand off the money, hand off the project type deals too. So I'm a lot more equipped and a lot more calm when I do things. Like I don't get as nervous as I used to dealing with other people as far as art goes, because there's a lot going in there, especially when it comes to any type of content creation, whether it be making movies, comic books, animation, writing books, whatever. Sometimes it can be a lot because you're pouring your creativity and you're pouring a part of yourself into it. It can be a lot to share it with other people or to deal with other people in doing so, because I know it's almost like giving away one of your children or dealing with your own something you created. But I've learned to separate that part of it from the business aspect, and you have to be able to do that, because otherwise you get too wrapped up and you take things too personally. And for a lot of people, it's not personal, especially on the business side. It has nothing to do with personal or friendship or whatever. It's all business. You got to understand that, and I understand that a lot better now than I ever did when I was in my early 20s, when I first started in this business as an intern when I was 21 years old. So just want to impart to you guys, it's never too late. Don't ever feel bad if you're 39 or in your 40s or even in your 50s or 60s and you start on a new project, you want to create something, go ahead and do it. You got nothing to lose by doing so, okay? And you'll be better prepared, and you know what it takes to get there. You know what your time is, you know how you feel about doing things, and you won't take a lot of crap either. You'll know how to deal with things without taking BS from people as well. It'll be all business. You'll know the pitfalls of dealing with other people in this regard. So, I mean, if you guys have any comments on this, please let me know in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about it. And if you have any stories to share as far as success later in life rather than having it early, go ahead and put that in the comments section too. Anyway, this is Chris Crazy House signing out. Peace.